One. You may now begin.
Good morning and welcome to the Development and Finance Committee meeting of the Housing Opportunities Commission of Montgomery County for April 29, 2024. I am Commissioner Jeff Merkowitz, Chair of the committee, and with me is Commissioner Roy Priest, Chair of the full commission. I think absent today is Commissioner Robin Solomon. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of our last meeting, which was, what were the dates? March 22nd. Sorry.
I move the approval of minutes of March 22nd, 2024.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion is approved. For the first item on our first item after that is a discussion on single family lending to approve a new participating lender for the single family mortgage purchase program. I will turn it over to President Chelsea Andrews.
Thank you. Members of the committee, the public, and the HOC team, good morning. This item relates to a standing item that we present and bring to the commission as we continue to evolve and bring on more lenders for our single family mortgage purchase program. This is a request for approval of 2 new participating lenders. I will turn it over to Michael Somerville, our Vice President of Mortgage Finance, to provide more details.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Michael Somerville. I'm the Vice President of the Mortgage Finance Division here at the Housing Opportunities Commission. This morning, we're presenting 2 lenders for approval into the mortgage purchase program. The first is Mortgage Link, Inc. The second is T2 Financial, which is going by the name doing business as Revolution Mortgage. Currently, we have 28 lenders participating in the program. With the approval of these, we would take the number to 30. The requirements to be a member of the program is you're not allowed to be a mortgage broker. You're FHA approved seller servicer and an FHA direct endorsement program approved. You're approved either as a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac seller servicer, and you need to be approved by US Bank. So Mortgage Link Inc. is been established for a long time. To give you an idea, their HMDA volume for last year was 138 loans with an average loan size of about $360,000. The Revolution Mortgage has for 22-23 volume was 10 loans with an average size of $267,500. The most unique thing about Revolution Mortgage is that a loan officer from Prime Lending, an existing MPP lender, has moved over to Revolution Mortgage and will boost their volume. So while they have limited experience as far as their volume under HMDA, we believe that they will have sufficient volume going forward to warrant being a member of the program. Those are all my prepared notes regarding the 2 members for consideration, and I'll open it up to questions.
Are there any questions?
No questions. I would make a motion that we recommend this item forward to the full commission.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved. Thank you. And I think we can make that a consent
Thank you.
item. Yeah. The next item on our agenda, also having to do with single family mortgage lending. I guess the good news is that we are making loans and in need of some new funds. So to continue making loans.
Absolutely. And our program is flourishing. And even with the change in circumstances in terms of interest rates, we are finding that there is even more of a need for the low cost loans and down payment assistance that our single family mortgage program team helps to provide. I will turn it over again to our Vice President of Mortgage Finance, Michael Somerville, for this presentation.
Good morning. We are presenting for a proposal recommendation to issue 2024 single-family mortgage revenue bond series A and B. The issue would be up to $35 million with the following breakdown. $2 million will be used for replacement funding to repay a draw on the PNC line of a little over $1 million, with the remaining funds will be used to refund and redeem various mortgage revenue bonds, housing revenue bonds, and public revenue bonds in July of 2024. We would have $15 million in tax exempt private activity bonds and $18 million in taxable bonds going forward. The structure is very similar to what we've done in all of our previous issues, so there's no unique structure here. To give you an idea, we're projecting this will fund approximately 160 loans, given our current volume and current balances. The cost of issuance is projected to be $570,000, which is in line as far as the percentage and structure with previous issuances. To give you an idea, the 2023 issuance to date has issued 134 loans with an average balance of $289,000, and all remaining funds have been reserved under the 2023 issuance. So as our president has indicated, the program is in demand and is doing very well. What we'd like to do is, the timeline is we plan on the bond sale on May 21st, with the final closing projected for June 18th of this year. So I would like to recommend to the committee the following actions. Approve the structure and issuance of the 2024 mortgage revenue bond series A and B. Approval of the allocation of up to $15 million in private activity tax exempt bonds. Approve the cost issuance budget of $570,000. And approve adoption of series resolutions authorizing the issuance of the mortgage revenue bonds. And I'll open that up to any questions.
And just to provide additional context, in Mr. Somerville, in the presentation materials, we do have a number of supporting slides, starting with page 19, which provides the transaction structure overview that you verbally described for the committee. Just want to kind of scroll through if you're on the screen.
Yes, we go up. So at the bottom of the page, you can see the 4 bullet points that we're suggesting regarding the issuance. Well, first of all, the structure between the Series A, which is the tax exempt, and the Series B, which is the taxable, and then below the structure of the issuance, like I said, $35 million under the 1979 indenture. The breakdown of the structure between the fixed and the taxable and tax exempt, and maturity term of 31 years, which has been consistent with our previous issuances.
The only question that I had, you've already answered for me, which was a question about what the volume was of loans that were given in 2023. And so you answered that question. What you were projecting for 24 in terms of the number of loans that we get supported by the $35 million appears to be a little lower than what we actually achieved in 23. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes. Well, what we're projecting is we may go up to 35 million, but right now we're targeting a similar volume due to the interest rate environment. It's a little more challenging given that we haven't seen any relief and on the mortgage interest rate environment. We'd like to hopefully see some relief in the second half of this year, which should spur some additional loan volume.
Do you have any idea about what the actual spatial location of where these loans are being made in the county?
I do
so
not.
we know where are people buying, where are people finding prices that they can use our product in the county.
We do get that. We can obtain that information from because, of course, on an ongoing basis, we receive report outs in terms of the use of these programs. We can provide that information in the future and share additional insight in terms of where the market seems to fit for the size of the loans that we're providing at this time.
Okay. With that, I don't have any other questions.
Sure. Could you just talk a little bit more about this in the context of our total available volume cap?
Within our volume, it falls within our volume cap. We've gone back and are asking for additional volume cap, but it will fit inside our current volume cap, given our current projections.
But I guess I'm thinking also about like what else we've got, you know, that we're going to need that additional volume cap, and like how confident we are that we're going to get what we need.
Well, we just about 2 weeks ago actually met with our partners at CDA to provide our overarching plan for the next year and what our needs were. They had set aside funding for Hillendale that, since it's shifted a bit, we've asked them to incorporate in the next round of funding. You know, there definitely is a position by the state that they offer their own loans for single family. We continue to incorporate this in our program because we do believe that Montgomery County residents benefit greatly from our interest rates. So they know that we incorporate it. I will say that I do believe that we will have the support from the CDA for the only additional resource that we've asked for moving forward in the next fiscal year, and that is the Hillendale transaction. So fairly confident that they will continue to support that transaction and that this issuance won't impact our ability to move forward with our multifamily work.
Is there a motion to forward this to the full commission?
I make a motion that we forward this to the full commission for action at the next meeting.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
will acknowledge that Mr. Somerville, this is your first meeting, I think, formally, that you come on board with the commission's committee. And so we want to welcome you on board.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda, something always fun, naming proposals for our West Side Building B. And I
And
will,
the pressure is on. And so this presentation will be provided by our Vice President of Public Affairs, Tia Blunt, who's joining us virtually. She's a little under the weather, so I hope we're able to hear her. But we do believe that we are advancing some strong recommendations in regards to Building B. Just to set the stage, Building B is the parcel directly across from the Laureate. So think creative themes, think academic, think advancing and leading. These are all of the themes that you will hear throughout this presentation. Tia, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President Andrews, and good morning, commissioners. For the record, my name is Tia Blunt, and I'm the Vice President of Public Affairs and Communications. I am coming before the commission with hopes, excuse me, that you will join the staff's recommendations for the naming of the proposed West Side Building B project. By way of agenda, I will provide an overview of the building's development, offer high-level profile of the resident, the neighborhood, the building, give an overview of guidelines, a glimpse of the history, location, geography, give a primer of what's involved in shaping the names, followed by a couple of proposed guidelines. In terms of the development overview, so the proposed Building B is located, as President Andrews says, just across from the Laureate. This new proposed development is a transit-oriented project, 1 block from Shady Grove, offers a number of planned development features from LEED, solar, universal design opportunities. It's entitled and backed by a proven project partner, with a successful track for development. And we're hoping to break ground in the next 12 to 14 months. We are hoping that we can use a number of opportunities to offer operational synergy with using Bozzuto. We know that we can leverage this project for HPF. So a number of things there. I won't bore you because we've seen this project. Next slide. In terms of the resident profile, This project in Building B, it's co-located with the Laureate, so it's intended to have the same resident profile with a mix of professionals, families, couples, single parents, empty nesters, lots of kids. And so those seeking to live here are looking for convenience, value, opportunities for ease of access, employment hubs, and just a really attractive place to network and telework. Next slide. In terms of the building itself, this is an opportunity to complete the West Side community, activating the circle, the plaza, offering great amenity spaces. We're expecting, again, to have similar amenities as the Laureate, so really continuing a lot of great value for that community, offering similar amenities as the Laureate, co-working spaces, maybe a cafe, and a really great commercial space, which is yet to be unknown. Next slide. This is really a regurgitation of the commission's naming guidelines. That is, I'm sorry. Oop, there we go. Having a strong regard for a positive image that stands the test of time, having appropriate regard for the location, geography, the history, commemorating people, places, and the importance of the town, region, state, location, or the nation, having regard for outstanding contributions or individuals in the community, and if and when that is the case, considering the quality or contribution of the length of time that those individuals have served. Next slide. In terms of local history, this really is a community that has evolved from a farming community and one that has been a vital force in terms of the metropolitan urban area. Montgomery County has really experienced a number of major forces over time, from a change in one that's been from the Civil War times, the B&O Railroad, the Civil War, World War II, and then the growth of the federal government. Since the 1940s, there's been just tremendous growth in terms of the federal government. And since the 40s, the county has really experienced just exponential growth throughout the history of Montgomery County. There's just been a lot of triumphs in terms of community preservation and culture. And then in terms of this particular site, it wasn't until the 70s that really started the growth of this particular parcel, where we saw that the county made investment in this community, where the county the county service, the county service came in and actually started to make some movement there with east and west sides, where Crab Ranch came in and made an investment. And then later on, Shady Grove opened up their metro station there, and you started to see movement there with the expansion of the opening up of the metro. Excuse me. Next slide. This is just a map where you can see the location of some of the popular areas, from Rock Creek to Durwood B&O to historic Durwood, to the proximity of the intercounty connector to I-270 to Maryland 200. Next slide. So this is a slide that really looks at that, given the local history, the location, the geography, as well as the planned development, the added community benefits. We really started to look at a number of key factors, including themes, and in a number of influential individuals from the neighborhood's past that really helped us to shape the inspiration for the neighborhood's future. And we really looked at key themes here around education, invention, and exploration for the community's name. For education, we looked at Nina Clark, who was an author, community activist, educator, historian, and principal. And she was a teacher in Montgomery County Public Schools. For an invention, we looked at Valerie Thomas. She was a physicist, a data scientist, and inventor for NASA. She was also a chief administrator there. And then for exploration, we looked at Matthew Henson. He was the first Black member of the Explorers Club, and he was the first man of Peary expedition to reach north of the North American pole. Sorry, to reach the North Pole. My apologies. He was also the first, the author of memoirs of the Negro explorer at the North Pole. And so these themes and proposed names really do symbolize Maryland's rich history of individuals who strove against adversity, who broke boundaries, and who strove against adversity, who achieved great things, and those who will follow in their footsteps as we begin to look at those who continue to shape Maryland's history. These inventors, teachers, scientists, and explorers who offer real cornerstones and civic anchors. Next slide. And so with that, we're turning to our first name, Muse. Muse at Shady Grove. Muse at Shady Grove. And below, just so you know, just below are a couple URLs that were proposed by the branding firm. We're not necessarily wed to these, but these are the ones that are available for use. But Muse is, if you're at Muse against the branding guidelines, you're in the right place. But Muse is a Latin word. Muse is a Latin word for think. And so in the past, Muse was a Latin word that represented goddess, but it really is a word that is a symbol for uplifting. It's the importance of the arts, sciences, and stories of the human experience. And it really connotes inspiration, consideration, curiosity, and wonder. And it really is an opportunity to not only look to the past, but to the future. And it really is an opportunity that looks at, that's full of potential for what is to come. This excitement and an opportunity to encourage residents over time. And that really is this note that there's a positive image that would stand the test of time. With regard to the locations, the facilities regard for location, geography, and history. We look at Muse at Shady Grove as a way to signal the culmination of this West Side community as a third and final multifamily building. It's a place to come, this dynamic place to live, work, play, and it's inspired by the intent to serve as a civic anchor. It will have a plaza place, outdoor spaces, and a place to rest and recreate. It's a third place, a place to foster environment for learning, creativity, community engagement, and where residents, old and young, can be to have a place to be young at heart. In terms of places to commemorate people, places, and events, we really thought that this was a place for Muse to represent tradition of ingenuity and diversity for Montgomery Countyans to really be a place where this is a place for folks to be well known, and it commemorates many in Montgomery County as individuals to succeed in with respect to their fields of expertise, right? Those who inspire to create, right? Create opportunities for their successes to live on. And this is, when we came up with these ideas, this notion of window to wonder was a theme that inspired the name Muse. right? And so you see this notion of window to wonder as a theme that played out in this name. This is really one of our favorites. And we thought the name the Muse plays really well with the name the Laureate. Those two really go hand in hand. And so this one is really our strongest recommendation. Next slide. The next slide is the name Splendor. Splendor. Welcome to Splendor at Shady Grove. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
worth stopping.
Tia,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you. The next slide is showing Endeavor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Endeavor. My apologies. I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah.
Endeavor. Welcome to Endeavor at Shady Grove. This apartment community represents all that you strive to and succeed in accomplishing. It's time to lean into the reward of its risks. Endeavor. Endeavor invokes the triumph of empowerment and sense of agency and motivation to achieve an ambition. This takes its nod from the French to make its one's duty to endeavor to promise to give it your best, right? To give it your all. This particular word was inspired by discovery, ingenuity, the utmost effort that comes with turning a great idea into great results. This notion that collectively people come together to work collectively, a community coming together over time to make something come to fruition. With regard to the facility's location, geography, and history, the community can grow beyond the completion of a community. And, over time, there's an opportunity to discover more. And with the connection of being transit oriented, expanding beyond the bounds of your community to discover this world around you. In terms of commemorating place, people, and events, Endeavor really symbolizes, again, this opportunity that Maryland has all of this rich history and individuals who have achieved great things, teachers, explorers, inventors, et cetera, who have gone on to do great things. And it's a symbol of investment in long-term scholarship and curiosity. Next slide. Now we come to Splendor. Splendor, this one is welcome to Splendor at Shady Grove. Sometimes it's worth stopping to smell the roses. Living in this community opens residents to a world of opportunities for enrichment and enjoyment. Splendor gets the naming guideline. So Splendor is Latin for brilliance and brightness and represents abundance, elegance, radiance. It's the idea that being present and making room for this experience of experiencing the world around you and enjoying all the fruits of your accoutrement, the labor. And it acknowledges that the accomplishments, both individually and collectively, that you as a community can come together to celebrate. In terms of the location, this is the final set of this robust community. It's the full, complete micro neighborhood around you. It's the final piece to the puzzle. It comes together and it's punctuated by this civic ankle, whatever this will be. And you can sit back and take pride in the splendor that will be this full community. In terms of commemorating place, people, events, it will be dedicated to honoring the achievement of a distinguished, groundbreaking, and community-driven individual and the impact of a greater community. And so with that, we are bringing forward these collective recommendations. Next slide. And hoping that the commission will join us in putting forward the Muse, which is one of our favorites for the naming of Building B. Again, we believe that this particular name pairs well with the Laureate in the Muse and inspiration for the community. We believe that it pairs well also with the other communities in the neighborhood I believe it's the Arrowwood, and I'm blanking on the name of the other property,
The daily.
the Daily, for that community. And apologies, I have a very bad sinus infection, so
Thank you, Tia.
yeah.
Oh, we do hope you're feeling better, Tia. So
Yeah.
I'll let Commissioner Priest start off the questioning.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I appreciate all the work that went into providing this recommendation to the committee, but I must say that none of these names really resonated with me. I hate to say that, but they didn't. I think the Laureate really is a great name. And it came out of a context we were looking at. Rather than naming after a person, we named it after a whole body of work in a way, like the Laureate. And it really resonated with me. And so I thought, and the Muse name did not connect to me at all to the Laureate. I don't know what that connection is. I couldn't, in the material I read, I could not feel that, because the Laureate to me has a very rhythmic name to it, almost in a way. I just love that name. And the Muse kind of sounds to me more muted, more softer. It just doesn't, the name of the three that really resonated was the Splendor. If I was going to pick anyone, it would have been that one, because that was more energy to it, more exciting. I did like the idea that it is the last fight in the area, and this is all we've done. This is a great Splendor summation of it. And all the three names, just standing alone, I think if the simple the Muse, the Splendor, the whatever the second name was, me would have had more of a place feel than just a standalone name. And the thing is, I struggled because I said, well, what can I offer as an alternative? And first of all, I didn't have the advantage of all of the thought people behind the work that was done to get these three. I don't know. Thank you for the explanation of the three pictures, because when I looked at the presentation, I couldn't figure out what was the connection between these pictures and these names. I liked the background of those persons you named who were looked at, but they were not names that you put forth as part of the naming of this process. Okay, and if there had been some way to connect all three of those names and persons to a word similar to what we created with the Laureate, that may have resonated with me. But just as a standalone, none of them excite me.
Well, first up, I'll say naming is hard. I never really enjoy this process. So, I do appreciate the work that went into this. Did we have consultants working on this, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess I will say this. It is hard, and a lot of different considerations go into thinking about what a potential name can be. While there's various points of inspiration, I even learned, because of course some of these backgrounds made me wonder, can we call it their name, or can we use a portion of their name? But then you have trademark, copyright, and family challenges and issues with calling a building an individual's name. And then there's the additional research that takes place. So those are terms that are sources of inspiration, as I have learned. And then there's the due diligence that takes place in terms of determining what names are available, what names won't cause confusion. And then as you think about how you incorporate design elements for those various sites. So just to recall, this particular site has been identified as a potential location for a library. If not a library, would potentially be utilized in some other creative way, maybe a maker space, other art kind of ways that we can bring in the artistic and exploratory component of this particular site, in conjunction with the Laureate, which focuses really just on written literature, that component of advancement. And so the connection isn't necessarily a literal one, going from the laureate to another version of writing, but more so thinking about the arts and how the laureate can focus in on the literature component, but Muse can think through concepts of creativity, amusement, exploratory.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess, well, one thing I'll say, I mean, my reaction wasn't quite as strong as Roy's. I can't say any of them blew me away. And I mean, I was a little curious about why use the verb form as opposed to the noun form of muse. You know, I prefer the muse. I mean, and I think Tia, you even used that yourself. So I think it's what would be used if, you know, whatever the name of the building, people are going to throw the in front of it. So I did see a little more connection between Muse and Laureate, sort of Chelsea, as you just described. And frankly, I would have thought that would have made a stronger case in the briefing packet than, you know, frankly, you know, to be honest, what read like a lot of consulting gobbledygook, some of those phrases. You know, it's a stretch to make some of those connections that were being made. So I don't have a problem with the muse. You know, I'm hearing Roy say that that's not his preference. So, you know, I don't know, Roy, how you feel about like just sending this to the full commission without a recommendation.
I mean, I think it's important the committee takes some action and recommends something. And not just throw this back to the full commission to have further debate. And I do recognize that this is a very difficult thing to do in terms of naming buildings and places like that. And I think we've done a good job on the ones we've done, you know, I mean, from the Leggett, you know, to residents, property, the Laureate, others. And what we just did with Hillendale. I mean, I struggled with that one too, but we got to an end with that. I don't know.
If I may, there's a couple of points of consideration as well. So I do agree that sometimes it's difficult with our naming guidelines, which I do believe we should consider refreshing. It does present a stretch for us to point to someone's name when, quite frankly, using someone's name is not the recommended way to go. So just in of itself,
problematic for more reasons than
absolutely. And so that's one square that we're trying to fit in when we're presenting. Second, while of course DFC is the committee that this comes to, this is a creative, overarching commission type of consideration. And so I, you know, while of course we can do whatever you all think is best in terms of coming back to this commission, I think having an opportunity to take the feedback here, think about if there's any adjustments, present it to the full commission allows for the collective feedback. You know, this is not necessarily the branding advertising committee, although we all have our own opinions on these things. And so I'm wondering if having the benefit of some discussion amongst the larger commission on ideas that might be even presented to us before commission, now that this additional information is available, might help prompt some additional considerations for the full commission to think through. And we certainly can go back to add you know, I know that there was some back and forth around that. I don't think that's as problematic, but in terms of
do you know why you went with
I don't know if it was how long the name would be, and I don't know, Tia, if there was some consideration around but I don't think that that's not a deal breaker. What does become problematic is the amount of resources as well when we outsource trying to come up with names. So starting back over in that process can cause some additional increase in cost. I will also just indicate that our partners, EYA, were also key contributors to this process. And there were multiple meetings and bounce around on what works, and then bringing in the interior decorators to think through how can you make this space emulate what the name could be here, and how can you play on that. Tia, is there a reason we did not use or a reason we cannot? Oh, yes, please share.
There was one. It was because in this particular regard, because we draw inspiration from many things, we didn't want it to be singular. And so in the example that you gave just now, Chelsea, with the fact that we were hoping that perhaps this might be a library where we're looking at different ways that we draw inspiration, Muse, becomes this thing where we draw inspiration. And so having the Muse is singular. That was the only reason. But I like the Muse because it feels very, it connects.
It creates the space.
Right. Right. And so
it clearly flows more naturally to you, because
right.
Even you weren't using it inadvertently,
right.
maybe, but
right.
So
that was the only reason.
Yeah.
So, and we can do whatever we want because we are the building owners. So,
I mean, I don't have any problem with moving this forward to the commission, because, and I will certainly use this period of time to think about whether it's something I would recommend as another alternative to it. One of the things is I know we set up a process for this naming. We went through the whole thing of setting up the guidelines for it, and you all have been following those. We went through the process with the Leggett. And so when we did the Leggett, that was named after a specific person. And we went through a lot of work to really get that approved and affirmed and whatnot. So I understand the hesitancy about naming something after a person. But also, I was really taken by the discussion about the three people who you talked about in the slide. And that had more context for me in thinking about naming than what we are recommending for names. It just does. I mean, the innovators or something like that, or, But I will certainly be willing to move it forward to the full commission for a conversation discussion. I won't recommend it.
Do we need an action then? Okay.
No, thank you.
All right. Where are we? The next item on our agenda, having to do with approval of maintenance responsibilities for the South County Regional Recreational and Aquatic Facilities.
Yes. Thank you. This item is more so a housekeeping issue as it pertains to how we enter into an agreement related to the maintenance that takes place at the SCRAC, or the South County Regional Recreational Aquatic Center. And I will turn it over to our Senior Vice President of Real Estate, Zachary Marks, to provide, and his team to provide this presentation.
As President mentioned, this is really mostly technical decision.
Thank you. Are contained within vertical condominiums over top of the land on which it sits. There's a tiny piece of the SCRAC operations, really, because it's not even really the building, but just the operations, some of the entryways and so forth. And also underneath the ground, the parking garages actually meet and connect. And so as a result of having some encroachment on Alexander House's property, this is really just a change that that accounted for extending the same relationship that is between the Leggett and the SCRAC onto Alexander House property. So while the title is around the maintenance responsibilities, there are no maintenance responsibilities or costs gained by Alexander House. It's just simply a technical permission by Alexander House, given that part of its land is involved, that yes, you all are extending this arrangement between HOC and the county, between the Leggett and the SCRAC around responsibilities, joint responsibilities around that condominium regime, and just allowing it to extend over to the Alexander House piece, that little southern tip that's involved in that relationship. So just to be clear, this is really just a permission given by the owners within the Alexander House building that allow that relationship to extend over.
Is that what the understanding has been? And this is just formalizing that,
Yes.
making sure that it's
Correct.
on paper.
I mean, we are the owners of the Alexandria House.
Yeah, so there's the development corporation, which is the market rate, which we are the 100% owner, and then we're the general partner in the limited partnership, which is the tax credit portion, the 40% units. And so both of those pieces are giving this approval, and that's also why they had to form. They formed this condo piece to basically be able to match what's going on. So if you think of the legal arrangement almost a little bit like it's a physical thing, it's really just, it's the way the Leggett, the SCRAC is designed from like this condo relationship, this vertical condo relationship. It's just continuing it slightly over the line onto the Alexander House property because of where the operations are.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the explanation. Does this at all have any impact on our financing partnerships we have relative to these properties?
It does not. No, there's no change to Alexander House's operations as a result of this.
So no documents need to be modified or amended by virtue of this decision
No, we just needed to give these consents.
to do that. Okay. Now, since we're talking about maintenance, I mean, the actual SCRAC itself, we have no maintenance obligations whatsoever to that property, do we?
So there are shared, what are common area maintenance. So there are shared CAM responsibilities,
Okay.
which are around,
Condominium, common areas kind of thing.
right. But the county is responsible for this, what I think we all think functionally about the SCRAC, but in terms of like, because these are neighboring buildings that are on a shared site, and they're to some extent where our residents will walk, their potential users of the SCRAC will walk, and so there are some shared areas like that we have. There's a big matrix around who's responsible for what, but in general, it's mainly for those common areas as opposed to like us being responsible for the pool or something like that.
Who's responsible for preparing the legal documents to memorialize this? Staff is doing it? Thank God. I would have a problem. We got to hire another lawyer to do it. That would just be a concern to me at all. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Is there a motion to forward this to the full commission?
so moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Thank you.
You.
I think the next item on our agenda is for Hillendale Gateway for a approval of a single maturity date for the Housing Production Fund.
Yeah. This also is another housekeeping item. It allows us to operate more efficiently by having one single maturity date. I will turn it over. We have Catherine Hollister joining us remotely, the Housing Acquisition Manager on this development, to provide this overview.
Thank you, President Andrews. Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Catherine Hollister, Housing Acquisition Manager in the Real Estate Division. The first Hillendale Gateway item can be found on page 47 of your brief book. This item is regarding approval of a single maturity date for Housing Production Fund's loan to Hillendale Gateway LLC. On January 11th, 2023, the Commission approved the making of a $14.5 million loan to Hillendale Gateway using housing production funds to fund early start work at the Hillendale Gateway development. This initial HPF loan was made on August 31st, 2023, with a maturity date of August 1st, 2028. On September 13th, 2023, the Commission approved increasing the principal amount of the initial HPF loan by $20.5 million to a total of $35 million. This HPF increase would be to fund the vertical construction of Hillendale Gateway and would be evidenced by an amended and reinstated HPF loan on the construction closing date. This amended and reinstated HPF loan would have resulted in two maturity dates, one for the initial 14.5 million HPF loan and one for the 20.5 HPF increase. To ensure that the HPF loan docs do not have two separate maturity dates and instead have a 5-year term commencing at the construction closing date, staff recommends that the Hillendale Gateway Development repay the initial HPF loan on or before the construction closing date, and that HOC issue a new loan from the HPF to Hillendale Gateway in an amount not to exceed $35 million. Thank you for your consideration of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Does this affect the rate that we are paying on these loans?
No, the HPF has a fixed rate of 5%.
Okay, that's yeah.
So this simply, could you just go back for a minute and on the slide before, that talked about the okay, this part here. On about the construction closing date, Hillendale Gateway will repay the initial HPF loan. The commission will terminate the amended loan, and then we will issue a new loan of $35 million. Is that the sequence?
Correct.
Okay. I support make a motion that we forward this forward to the commission for their review and approval. In fact, it cleans up a process that makes it easier to be able to track the future of behavior of this whole HPF loan. So I recommend it forward.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
The final item on our public agenda today is also Hillendale Gateway and approval of additional legal services.
Yes, this transaction, as we all know, is one where we're hoping to close in the near future, but our dates have shifted a bit and it's impacting our overall contract authority with our law firm. Just to be clear, this is not requesting additional funding. This is coming before the committee out of a procurement requirement, since our contract authority would exceed $250,000 for this particular firm. And so I will turn it back to Catherine Hollister to provide more details.
Great. Thank you, President Andrews. Again, for the record, I'm Catherine Hollister, Housing Acquisition Manager in the Real Estate Division. This second item can be found, Hillendale Gateway item can be found on page 49 of your brief book. This item is regarding approval of additional legal services provided by Gallagher, Avelius, and Jones LLP for the Hillendale Gateway transaction. Just as a way of background, in October 2021, HOC obtained quotes from 3 firms within its legal pool for legal services and transactional work for Hillendale Gateway. Gallagher, Avelius, and Jones LLP, which I will refer to as GEJ, provided the lowest bid, and HOC engaged GEJ for an amount not to exceed $200,000. Since that initial engagement back in 2021, the Hillendale Gateway project has evolved in a number of ways, requiring a revised scope of work. Notably, the structure of the development changed from 2 separate financing transactions to 3, 1 for the AR building and 2 for the NAR building. On February 7th, 2024, the commission approved additional legal services provided by GEJ in an amount of $160,000, plus a $32,000 contingency for a total increase of $192,000 to cover the changes in the transaction revised scope of work. At the time the revised scope of work was approved, it was thought that the Hillendale Gateway transactions would close in March 2024. At this time, the financing of the development is now expected to occur in late May or June. Additionally, the transactions have required additional legal time and coordination because of the large number of participants involved and the complexity and interplay of the multiple components of the project and sources of capitalization. As a result, GEJ anticipates that the additional legal services in the amount of $233,000 are needed to close the 3 Hillendale Gateway transactions. The cost of these additional services will be paid for by the Hillendale Gateway development, and the development budget has sufficient funding to cover these additional services. So staff recommends that the Development and Finance Committee join staff's recommendation that the commission approve additional legal services provided by GEJ in the amount of $233,000. Thank you for your consideration of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Just a quick clarification. So in terms of the development budget, is it the development budget overall, or is this still within what we had allocated for legal expenses within the
It's-
development budget?
It's the legal, yeah, there's sufficient budget within the legal line items of the development budget to cover this additional service.
The only question I have, I'm trying to understand the connection between the original closing date and the revised date as it relates to the need to increase the amount of legal costs. I mean, what is that point?
Yeah, reason why it's taking an additional time to close is there are literally tens of thousands of pages of legal documents to document this transaction. We have a large capital, our capital stack is complex. We have numerous sources of financing for this transaction, which is just requiring a lot of legal time. Also because we have multiple lenders and an investor involved in the transaction, there are intercreditor agreements. There's just a lot of documentation to make sure that all financing partners understand and know how this development will come to be. So it's requiring a lot of time and attention and coordination between now and getting to closing.
But irrespective of the closing date, there was still going to be a requirement for an additional amount of funding for the legal cost of this project.
We had gotten approval to get to the amount that we would have needed if we had closed in April. So since our closing has not taken place, this adds on the additional time that we believe we will need to get to closing. We had previously already received approval from the board to get to that amount that we thought was appropriate if we had closed in April.
That's $200,000.
Correct. I believe it was
192, and additional services approval that we obtained back in February was for 192,000.
Okay.
And it's just turning out to be more complex than we anticipated.
and taking longer.
Yeah.
And so we need our firms to be available to review documents, to create whatever additional legal related materials for this transaction. And so, yes.
So we feel like this additional amount of money will cover the additional work required and allow us to close on the revised date for closing. And we don't anticipate any additional costs beyond what we're talking about now.
Well, let me be clear. This is already approved in the development budget, meaning there is no additional money that the board is approving. You're approving additional contracting authority for me because my contracting authority goes to 250,000. So whenever we are going above that amount in any of our contracts, we, as a technical procurement process or protocol, present that to the board. And so there's no additional money because we did build out this budget with contingencies and expected that there might be additional costs that we have to incur. So there are no additional financial impacts for this related issue. It's just making sure that we follow our procurement protocol.
But could you clarify that in terms of what goes to the commission? Just explain what this really is not about so much the legal cost, but about the procurement related impact of this. Okay, I think that was more that if that is the connecting tissue here, that should be explained.
We'll add that additional context to this.
So you're saying when these legal costs are within the structure of the development budget for the project, so we're not doing anything about modifying that. We're simply just, in fact, making sure there's any authority of our president to be able to execute the necessary documents to do that.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Do that.
Okay, will do.
With that, I recommend approval and recommending this forward to the full commission.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
We will, are there any other items to be presented before? Okay. So then we will now move into closed session. And I will read the following statement. Pursuant to section 3-305B and D of the general provisions article of the annotated code of Maryland, I move to adopt the written closing statement dated April 29, 2024, and to adjourn this open session to a closed session to discuss the confidential commercial and financial terms of lenders' proposed financing structure for the Hillendale Gateway development. Statutory section that allows this meeting to be closed is section 3-305B13. If a member of the public that is watching this meeting in real time on YouTube wishes to object to the closed meeting, please comment in the YouTube chat box or contact HOC's General Counsel. Instructions can be found in the Open Meetings Act objection procedures, which is posted on HOC's website. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved, and we are now moving into closed session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our live stream has now ended.
Are we gonna do that right here? Can we do that right here?